Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Why is it that independent women stay in unhealthy relationships and then feel really trapped? Then comes that feeling of insanity. How did you get there? How did you get caught up in something so uncontrollable? It's hard to understand and it's hard to talk about. Today, we'll have a full discussion about being in an unhealthy relationship where it's tough to climb out of the space that you're in and you're at a loss and you're in the clouds where you have no sense of reality. I'm joined by Maria Martiniello, author of Find Yourself. She wrote this book about dating a narcissist to share her story with others and bring to light what red flags to look out for. Welcome to Empowered, Maria. Thank you for being here today.
And thank you for having me.
So before we begin, I just want to say that, a narcissist is not just the male. It could be a female. It could be anybody. But this is your story. So we're just going to go on with your story. I know that your book is about dating a narcissist. I read it. But really, what is your book about?
Yeah, my book is about helping people recognize the signs of narcissism. It's a share and reflect book, really, so that we can have thoughtful conversations with ourselves, because there is a journaling aspect of the book, so that we can just be honest about where we are in our own relationships. We can learn from other people's experience, and it really is just to help yourself, hence find yourself.
So why did you write the book? I know it was to help others,
Yes.
but also, how long did you wait to write it?
Yeah, I probably waited about 7 years. And for anyone that has been in an abusive relationship, you know that you really have to help yourself first and you have to heal. So it took quite a while, and I really had to be really self aware of what was going on. And I hardly talked to anybody about my experience, but, when I did, on the rare occasion, people would be like, "Oh, can I tell you a story?" And so really, it just took a long time for me to realize that, the outcome and intention of the book was to help people. So it took a while.
So why was it important to you to write this book?
Yeah, it was really important. I really wanted to help people. We live in a day and age, we live on social media, we live charmed lives. And I think I really wanted to rip open the cloak for people to see inside, to see what real life looks like. And so that was really the important thing for me. And if I only helped one person, then I think I did my job. Listen, it was cathartic for me as well. But at the end of the day, I really wanted to help people.
That's the reason why I started Empowered, because I wanted to help people. Everyone goes through something within their lives. Everyone struggles. We all struggle on a daily basis. I mean, let's be clear. You talked about social media and you said, everybody posts all these wonderful stories, but a lot of the times they're fabricated stories.
Right.
And yeah, I guess this was more important for you to heal and grow than anything else, and quite frankly, to help other people, which is what you said.
Yes,
So
for sure.
does your narcissistic partner know that you wrote the book?
I know his family read the book. I did get some feedback from them. I haven't heard from him personally. But the story was really my story. It wasn't a revenge book or to point anyone out or any bad behavior. It was just really my story. And I think that's really the most important thing when it came to telling that story and share that experience. And I really did everything I could do to protect people in my life so that I wasn't exposing them, because it was just about that experience. And it was just about, sharing a horrendous experience, but just about that learning process for other people to learn from.
And the bottom line is, it was your story, and it was something that I know that you and I talked before. This is something that you wanted to share with other women because you wanted to help other women, and
Yes.
I mean that's a very unselfish thing to do. Telling your story your way helps you, but helps other women as well. We have to go to break, but when we come back, I want to talk about a quote that you had said, that you would rather be lonely alone than alone with someone else. And I want to talk about that and see exactly what you meant and how that will help other people. Don't go away. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing dating a narcissist. So, Maria, early on in the book, you said that I would rather be alone, or I would rather be lonely alone than alone with someone. I'm sure many women feel that way, even though it was the truth and how you felt. Do you still feel that way? And can you explain how you felt?
Yeah, absolutely. I still feel that way. I think it was a good lesson learned. You know, when you're lying in bed with your partner and you're supposed to feel that comfort, that warmth, and that safety of being with someone that you love, but you don't feel that. I feel that you're feeling lonelier than you've ever been before because of the way, we're supposed to feel. And so when you're in a relationship and you're the only one really in it and feeling that loneliness, to me is, not even worth being in a relationship. So for sure, I feel like that today. And, I try not to get into those environments and those situations again. But one thing that I will say is that I'm not lonely anymore in my relationships, my connections, and my business relationships. I surround myself with like-minded people that care. We have mutual respect. So I don't feel that anymore, whether I'm with a partner or not, and only because I have empowered myself to take what I can from the relationships that are in my life so that I am not lonely.
I often say surround yourself with really good friends.
Yes.
Because, when you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling down or whatever, you've got this incredible group of different or same people that you can, turn to so that you don't have that feeling of loneliness and the emptiness as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So I want to talk about the narcissism. What did narcissism look like in your own experience?
It's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I mean, the one thing that I really enjoyed about meeting Luke was, being adored and being the most special thing in someone's life and, being the center of everything. And then on the other side of that, there is, this feeling of being dismissed, the feeling of not being able to be good enough, to do enough, then questioning everything that I do so that I am questioning my own sanity. And so it goes from one extreme to the next. And, I adored being adored. I adored being the center of someone's affection and attention and life. And then it just swings the other way. And so that's what it feels like. And you're always on high alert. You never know what's going to happen next. You're pining for that. I just want to be so loved by this person because he makes you feel so amazing. But then on the other side, you're just feeling like you're not good enough. And it's just such a separation of feelings and emotions. It's a very, very hard situation to be in.
So you also mentioned that you felt like a prisoner in a jail, that you craved, addicted to what you thought was love. It's exactly
Yes,
what you were just talking about. And you thought that you were in charge, but felt like you were under a spell and you only did things to please him. And, when I
absolutely.
was reading your book, it sounded to me a lot like the women who are under a romance scam spell as well. You get bombarded with, I love you, I love you, I love you. And the dopamine hits and you crave it even more. Is that exactly what you went through?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting comment. And that's exactly because, we all want to be loved. We all want to be adored. And I think that's what we're all looking for. So when we get a glimmer of it, when we get a glimpse of it, then yes, I think we tie ourselves to it. And it's something that we really want and crave. And then on the other side, when you don't get it, you're always looking for it. And I think that's the spell I was under because I was always looking to get back to that space, but I was out of control. I couldn't ask for it or count on it. It just came when it showed up. So I stuck around and waited until it showed up again. And when it did, here I am under the spell again.
So, it just reminded me, I talked to, I did a show on romance scams with Linda Young, and she was basically saying that the guy that the romance scammer, um, he basically pulled her away from her family so that she was only, with him, or her mindset was with him. And she really didn't talk to her family, and she was feeling all that loneliness by herself and really didn't have anyone to fall back on, or anyone to talk to, because she was addicted to the I love yous, but he was really crafty at pulling her away from her family and her friends. I want to ask you that question when we come back after this commercial break. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing dating a narcissist. And before we went to commercial break, Maria, we're talking about the similarities between dating a narcissist and a romance scammer as well. So did he actually pull you away from your family and friends as well, so that you just kept everything that you went through inside?
It's interesting because, when you're being gaslit, it really is kind of that emotional abuse where you're manipulated in a way. And what was interesting was he actually would pull in my mother and just really charm the socks off her too. So it was interesting because I wasn't really pulled away. Everyone was pulled in to see what I saw. And so it was like, oh, we'd love him. We'd love the situation. I mean, I had a few friends that were like, wow, this is really insane. And what are you doing? And give your head a shake. But the people that were closest to me were also charmed as well. So it was just a very interesting space to be in, almost to the point of when everything went down and I kind of had enough strength to leave. My mother would question me because he was so good to her and she saw the greatest of the great. So I got questioned at the time again, of what I was thinking when, she just couldn't believe it because she was also a little bit manipulated. So not isolated, in the sense where I was taking away, but, those that were closest to me would see the best of the best.
So, okay, let's move on to red flags. What are the red flags that people should be looking out for when they're dating a narcissist?
Yeah, I feel that, like you'd mentioned, in anything that's scam related, if your intuition is tingling, if your guts are telling you something, I think you should stand up or sit up and listen, because you're going between, those two different emotions of being adored, the center of someone's universe, to now being not good enough. So I think when you see those fluctuations all the time and you can't make heads or tails of it, that is a big red flag, that maybe you should be questioning the relationship. And so, when everything is in your best interest and that's what you're led to believe all the time, even when something is as crazy as someone breaking into your house and you're like, that's cute.
Okay,
You're
that's
told
not
that's
cute.
because they
Somebody
can.
breaking into
It's
your
not.
house is not cute.
It's not cute. But when you're told, that it's in your better interest, I was worried about you, I was all these things, you're like, oh, and so you just don't see the red flags at the time. So, but when those fluctuations are happening, I think that's a telltale sign, and that's big red flags, that something is going on.
So you also talk about self-doubt.
Yeah,
You experience things, but maybe they didn't happen that way, but maybe they did. It was almost like gaslighting. You talked about gaslighting earlier.
yeah.
What would you say to anyone who is experiencing something about that right now? The self-doubt, did it happen? Did it not happen? Is it really happening? Am I fabricating it? What are your words of wisdom to help someone?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of us go into relationships. We're strong individuals. We know the difference between right and wrong. So, when you keep self questioning and self doubting yourself, I think, you really have to stop for a minute and really do a lot of self reflection. You have to look at yourself, do some self awareness, and kind of check in with yourself. And I think that's really the most important thing, is being like, okay, no, I have had a lot of experience in my own life, not doubting myself, understanding myself, creating, this independent person. And when that starts fleeting and being chipped away, then I would really, start questioning a lot of things. And I would give that advice to a lot of people because you weren't always that way.
So, okay, I read your book, and the
Yes,
book
thank you.
reveals a lot about you. And there are some very explicit details that you share in the book. How does sharing as much make you feel?
I was terrified and I thought long and hard before I shared as much. And I was going to leave a few of the 50 Shades kind of stories out of there. The reason it was so important is because at some point in the relationship, I thought it was the only thing I can control. And so if I left those things out, if I left the story out, it wouldn't be a complete story because it was so important that is where I felt I can control the situation. And I think a lot of women feel the same way. I mean, I was terribly wrong, but it also felt very freeing to me. It felt good to be vulnerable. It felt good to be honest. And it felt good to tell the story as it really was. And so if I did skip out a few, details, I don't think that anyone would understand the full story of it.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing dating a narcissist. And I'm joined by Maria Martiniello, author of Find Yourself. And I think this is an important question here, Maria. I found it interesting that your book has the opportunity for readers to journal and you ask questions to reflect on the reader's own experience. Clearly, you thought this was important. Why did you include that?
Yeah, it was very, very intentional. I think journaling is a really important part of our day to day. It really gives and creates, I think, some order in a very chaotic life. I've been journaling my whole life. I really, when I journal, I get to know myself. I get to reread it and I get to kind of reflect on the feelings that I had. Do I still feel the same way? I felt that journaling distresses, a long day. It does hurt, like it just puts things into perspective. So, the journaling aspect of it, when you're reading about someone else's experiences and then you can honestly reflect on yours because you're not feeling lonely. I think then that, will give people the opportunity and the space to get creative and to really dig deep and find themselves really, hence the title of the book.
Okay, so what advice, this is important as well, what advice would you give to anyone who is in a narcissistic relationship right now and is struggling?
Yeah, I would say listen to the people that love you and that are around you. If they feel that something is a little off, or I didn't do that, then I would listen to those signs, and I would say educate yourself. There's a lot of material, a lot of reading material. Google, just find out symptoms and traits of a narcissist, and then really do your homework, and then be honest with yourself about the situation that you're in. I think we tend to get a little complacent. We like it because we like it. But I think that, the recovery part is a very hard part. And the more you know, the more that you can educate yourself, the better off you'll be. And listen, if nothing comes of it, then that's great. But at the same time, the more you know about people and just about the psychology of people will help you out in the long run.
I love the fact that you said be honest with yourself, because a lot of people want love so badly. It doesn't matter who you are. You try to fabricate it in your brain and you're not really honest with yourself. And I think that's really, really important. Probably one of the most important things that you just said. Be honest with yourself. I want to move on and say, what was the most significant hurdle for you in writing the book?
hmm It was really about being intentional about the book. I did not want anyone to perceive this as a revenge book. That's not what this is about. This is about education. It's about sharing. I think when you share with your community, your friends, just people in general, we lower our guard so that we can be honest with ourselves and honest with each other. And then we give, an environment that we can help ourselves. And so in a nutshell, that was purely the intentional, and it was really important for me.
So you mentioned in your book that you now have a healthy relationship with yourself. We've got 1 minute left. What did you mean by that?
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I have to go to bed and live each day with myself. So I wanted to, help myself and be in that healthy relationship, create self-awareness about who I am and what I'm about. I need to understand my values. I wanted to be self-accepting. I really wanted to improve my mental health. I wanted to create good, healthy connections with people, the people that I love, people in my professional world. And I wanted just to really know where I wanted to be in my, in hitting my own personal goals. So that's what kind of, being in a healthy relationship with myself means.
So just quickly, yes or no? Are you dating now?
I am dating myself.
Well, you know what?
Dating
That's
myself.
great. I am so happy for you. And thank you so much for bringing this book to the forefront.
Thank
Bye for
you.
now.
Thank you.
Maria says that there is a bizarre sense of control that a narcissist has over you, and it's like an addiction. After everything that she experienced in this toxic relationship, she worked really hard to try and trust herself again, to regain the knowledge that she wasn't crazy or illogical. The bottom line is, never think that it's always your fault. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.